and I think we have to continue to build on the successes we have met now with this FATF evaluation.
Governance-related issues remain front and centre in the news. On the one hand, we see big financial players paying a price for previous poor governance, but we also hear of complaints from the current financial service providers that excessive compliance is holding their business back. How does the industry navigate this tension? Well, delighted to be joined by Philipp von Restorff, CEO of ILA. Philipp, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim.
Now, we clearly have got a tension on our hands with sort of requirements and yet the cost of compliance. From your perspective, how do we navigate this tension?
Well, both are linked, obviously, and the regulatory framework, since basically the financial crisis, has become more and more complex, and the speed of change for the organizations is increasing, entailing, of course, huge operational costs, which the organizations have to bear. But then again, don't forget, Luxembourg is on the radar of the international regulators and has to be compliant, and the organization cannot afford to have any kind of wrongdoings in this area. And so Luxembourg had the political will to engage in this path of transparency and the path of a sound regulatory framework, which today we have.
I mean, some people fear that internationally we're putting ourselves out of business because the cost of compliance is too high. Do you worry about that?
I don't fear that we put ourselves out of business, but it is true that the costs are rising. We have to make sure we keep a certain level playing field, but a regulatory framework, which is sound, comes with a price tag.
It's interesting to hear you talk about the international spotlight being on the country, because I believe we've just had the report this summer from Gafi, and Luxembourg came out looking like good, didn't we?
We did look good, yes, indeed. We have managed over the last 5 to 10 years to really implement a regulatory framework that was evaluated by the FATF as sound, effective, and actually we meet most of the criteria or technical recommendation set in the evaluation. So I'm very happy about it.
So this is basically good news for us as a jurisdiction?
Yes, it creates further credibility. It's underlining the robustness of the financial center and the maturity of the financial center. And it is the outcome of a strong political will and a good implementation of the organizations who were screened.
I mean, there is a flip side to this argument, because I hear of some complaints from some of the service providers and even from some clients that they couldn't get business done because there was too much pressure to be compliant.
Well, the most important thing for us is that we maintain a certain international level playing field that permits us to have high standards, but able to do business.
And do you think that's where we are now?
I think so. I think we have been moving into the right direction, and I think we have to continue to build on the successes we have met now with this FATF evaluation.
It's election season. I'm not going to ask you who you're going to vote for, but I will ask you, following this election, what sort of issues are you going to be raising with the new government?
Well, we are in continuous exchange with the government, with the ministries, with the administration, with the regulators, and we discuss different kinds of topics. With the ministries, we will debate topics like the VAT issues directors are currently facing in Luxembourg. We discuss international issues like the ATED 3 directive, and we will tackle every topic which is of importance for directors, but also for corporate governance in general.
I mean, it sounds as though you'd be more likely to favour parties on the right. Is that fair to say?
No, this is not fair to say. We cooperate with all governments which have been democratically elected, and they are elected by the people, and they are doing the politics and implement the government measures. And the important thing for us is that we remain in constant exchange to ensure mutual understanding, which has been the case so far.
So we'll see what colour flag Luxembourg gets after the election. Who knows?
Who knows?
Now, corporate governance is not just limited to finance, isn't it? You actually look after and train directors in other areas too.
Exactly. We look after all directors of all different sectors of the ecosystem and in Luxembourg and beyond. And we have to make sure that directors are up to date in terms of regulation, in terms of knowledge, in order to be fit for purpose.
But okay, let's just look at this for a second. So, for example, big industrial groups.
Yes.
What type of governance issues do they wrestle with?
Well, they wrestle with a number of issues. They have to be ready to face currently a lot of things that they cannot foresee per se. I mean, we had the financial crisis. We had COVID, we had the invasion of Ukraine, which creates an environment of geopolitical tensions. So we have cybercrime, we have now the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning. All these factors, of course, impact an organization, even more so if it's an organization which is operating internationally.
Okay, but may I just gently challenge you here, because whether an industrial group has got good directors or not, it appears as though crime is here to stay. For example, in Germany, I read recently a scrap metals group. They had 100 million euros worth of metal stolen by their own employees. How does good governance actually change things like that?
Well, Jim, crime has been there for a long time, and crime unfortunately will remain on the agenda in different categories. But having a diversified board in terms of, not only of gender, by the way, but also in terms of expertise, of competences, diversification in terms of executive directors and non-executive directors certainly helps to spot some wrongdoings earlier.
Excellent. Philip, we're out of time now, but thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome, Jim.
That was Philipp von Restorff, CEO of ILA. Thank you.